Hello and welcome to Informed Entrepreneur Magazine. I'm Mike Baumstark. I'm a small business owner myself, and I'm a volunteer interviewer for Small Business Insight that produces Informed Entrepreneur Magazine. Today we're interviewing Jonathan Escueta, who owns a company called Signs and Banners. Welcome, Jonathan.
Welcome.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Jonathan, can we start out by just having you tell us how you got started with your company? Just give us the beginnings, the time frame. Start there.
Well, 5 years ago I used to work for a church, and I did designing. I did a lot of their desktop publishing, and we printed, we used to get an external company to be able to print us stuff for us. Then one day, when we were doing this, we were searching for sources. I kept calling these companies, and none of them were picking up the phone for some weird reason. So, and
not a good business model, I'd say.
It wasn't. But here's the thing. We were doing this off my dad's basement.
Okay.
And so what we did was, when a company would, say for example the church wanted to print some flyers,
yes,
banners, I would outsource them to a different company.
Okay.
And there was one day that year when I tried to call several companies and none of them picked up. And I called, yeah, so none of them picked up, but it wasn't that. When finally I got somebody to pick up the phone, I say, so what's going on? You know, I mean, I've called like maybe 5. It was uncanny that at that day nobody was picking up their lines, right? So the girl says, haven't you heard? I say, why? What's going on? Well, all the sign companies have this big convention up in Baltimore. And I say, really? And I say, Dad, that was 5 years ago. I said, Dad, let's pack up our things and go up to Baltimore. Let's see what's going on there.
Excellent.
You know, we're already geared into doing designing work. You know, we've always been, me, my sister, my brothers have always been fond of trying to be creative.
Really? So
what happened was, we said, let's go up in Baltimore. We took up our, got a few stuff, got the car ready, went to Baltimore, and saw this big convention. It was unprepared, it was just on the fly, it was the same day we heard. And up in Baltimore, we saw all these opportunities that opened to us, and there was this one guy say, hey, when I was meeting the different vendors there, it was a sign convention, and they say, how would you like to get started with a package? You know, and I say, okay. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, would you loan me some money? And that's when it started. And he said he would? Well, it was part him and the bank.
Okay,
but,
okay. That's great.
And he said, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, you're enthusiastic about it. You dragged me all the way here, so might as well.
Okay, so that's 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago.
Then what happened?
Then after that, so we bought this machine, right? Figures good?
Yes.
I mean, it's at that time it was already a good model. It's about 20 grand. You know, it was the only machine we had at that place, and we were operating on my dad's basement with one machine. And
what did the machine do exactly? It
prints banners.
Okay.
It's a large format printer.
Okay. And
so we had that in the basement, and we were doing this for one church, one customer, and eventually by word of mouth that church recommended this to another church, and we had 2 churches in a week.
Okay.
So
very good.
And it kept on rolling. Then I said, Dad, I think we need a bigger office. I think we need something that's gonna be able to have room to grow.
Yeah.
So we actually, which is really weird, this office right now, we rented back on the back of this place, a small office.
In the same building?
On the same building,
okay,
which is probably one-eighth of this,
okay,
of this size office right now.
Was somebody using this portion at the time?
Yes, this
okay,
used to be a bank.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were back there, and it was humble. There was like one room, a couple of chairs, and we were pounding the pavement. We were calling companies up for, if you want some signs, you want some banners to be made. We obviously when we went over there, it wasn't. We didn't pick up that as much. It was probably still 2 or 3 customers a week.
Mm-hmm.
We were hidden back there because it's not in front of the road. It
Right.
was what we could afford as rent.
Right.
And when when I remember back then was when somebody knocked at the door, we came on rushing, me and my sister, trying to greet whoever that was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was humble beginnings, little
Yep.
by little, chugging along.
Yes.
Then after that, we said, let's go ahead and get ourselves involved with the chambers,
Yes,
get
okay.
involved with the community.
Mm-hmm.
And it was marketing. And back then I was also doing door-to-door, believe it or not. It was just me by myself because I had to leave somebody at the shop.
Sure.
My sister would be there, so me, my sister, my brother, 3 of us. My dad was more kind of like a supporter,
I understand.
He just supported us. He wasn't involved, but he was a good boost. So I would go door to door from anywhere I can find. Even if I see no solicitation, I'd find a way to get around it. I mean,
That's excellent.
what I would do is I'd get some freebies. I mean, sir, not for anything. This is for you. This is a gift from Signs and Banners. We just opened. I mean, I'm not selling you anything. This is just for saying that we're new in the community.
Right. Excellent.
And it worked pretty well.
And you've been steadily growing?
From then.
Okay. So it's 5 years ago. What year did you actually feel like you could put something in your own pocket? You could take something out?
It was on the 3rd year. It was in the 3rd year of doing business. The first few years was rough. I mean, I carried, I had to, loans on banks. Obviously, sometimes, my dad was there to support us as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But on the 3rd year, we were getting enough to be able to hire employees to help us in production, because back then I was doing production, marketing, accounting,
Yes.
doing the bookkeeping.
Yes.
And I remember going to one place one time and they told me, okay, if you are to do your job properly, you have to hire somebody to do the other job so you can make sure that you do find the ways and means to pay him.
Yeah.
And I say like, okay, that's going to be a plunge for me. It's a 3-year business, and it's going to be a plunge. So I say, okay, let's go ahead and just hire an installer.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just do that. Let's part-time him first and go from there.
Excellent. Let me ask you, how many people are you employing right now?
There's 4.
Okay. And are they all family members, or are there people outside also?
Well, the only family member that I have is my brother.
Okay.
3 of them.
Is that Joseph?
That would be Joseph.
Okay.
Yeah, Joseph Escueta.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them are. They're walk-ins. One of them worked for another sign company before. He lost his job back then, and so happened to find us, and it clicked. Vanessa is a friend of Joseph. Was also looking for a job, but that was after a few months afterwards. Mark was our new addition, and we've had turnover of many different employees.
Mm-hmm.
We have college students who work for us for a season.
Well, my experience has been that you guys do get back right away. You're pleasant on the phone, and you actually get the job done. It has been my experience with you all in working through a church that I go to that is a client of yours I know. Can you, for the audience, just tell us, what do you essentially do now? What's your full service package that you do for businesses or whatever?
First, every morning I really do stress that to everybody here that we have to make sure that we do the best that we can do. we are given this gift that we have to make sure that we make the full potential of it. And when a customer comes in, we do really have to treat them as king. There are many sign shops in this area, especially in Manassas. And I told these guys, what sets us apart from them? We gotta make sure we have to step up. If we're not going up against price, if we're not going up against quality, because they're the same printers, they're the same skill sets, they can get even a better installer, but what we're gonna have to work above that. It's most of our clients would be coming back for us because of that extra mile. I think it's because of that extra mile. We're not a perfect sign shop. We do make mistakes, but we make sure that we have to correct those mistakes. We've had to shell out some money just to correct those mistakes, but if it's our fault, we have to make sure we make it right.
I think everybody today, when we're looking for some product or service, and we find a company that acts like that, you just never want to let them go, because I tend to think, in my experience dealing with all sorts of businesses, that a lot of businesses don't seem to either care or have it together well enough that you say, I never want to lose this person. So that's kind of what you've apparently developed. Could you share a couple of points that you felt were the most difficult parts of starting your own business?
Okay. Most difficult part, number one, I think, because it's also the most important aspect of the business that we have here, is employees. I was thinking about this last night because I knew this interview was coming up. I said, what is the most important thing of this business? And I feel it's really the employees. They are my gas. And it can be also the most difficult thing. They have many different personalities. And you want to make sure that as kind of like the captain, you have to make sure that you operate them well, because they can be efficient in one and you can use them somewhere else that they're not efficient. You will have to make sure that you find the balance on that. Mm-hmm. That was the most difficult part, because if you get them on their bearings, and if you get them on the right track, the others feel you have your other all the systems are firing up. They work for you. They do the things that they're supposed to do, and you don't have to think about them. So that would be.
Where did you get your business wisdom? Because you obviously have a very good perspective, and part of the reason you've been successful is because you have this perspective. Where do you think you got that business wisdom?
My parents have always been in business. I've looked at their. They have this culture. They have this drive. When I was young, and I'm not really so sure, but it was back in the Philippines. I'm not really sure if it's the same through here, but they would go up in the morning. They would wake up in the morning and be early on the job, way earlier than anybody else, and leave last. And I was telling also, we had a powwow the other day with my employees. I was telling them, if you want to be great, you have to make sure you also serve. You have to serve right. You have to go to the grassroots, and that was the philosophy. I say, if I work as hard as anybody else here, and I expect them also to do the same, they follow my lead on that. Mm-hmm. It just goes the extra mile. My parents were like that, and I looked at them all my life.
Well, they were a good example, and that's part of the reason that you're successful at what you're doing. Let me ask, in closing, this question: where do you want to take Signs and Banners? What is your maybe five-year goal? What is maybe your ultimate goal with Signs and Banners?
My ultimate goal was to be able to put 2 or 3 shops, and one of them items can be on the works. We're looking for another location. I think we've outgrown the space. Many customers who come here, who's been with us for many years, ever since we've started on a small office, they come in here really personal, and they say, "Hey, Jonathan, remember that time? Remember that time? And you were in that small place." I say, "Yes." And now you've outgrown yourself, and I say, you know, it's all good.
Yes.
So I think we have to be proactive at this point in time. We can be complacent in this, but we want to make sure that we just be aggressive.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, the fish, the goldfish in a small bowl.
Yes.
It's going to just grow as much, but that goldfish, if you put them in a big pond, will grow big.
Right.
So I think we were about the time to be able to just expand. So.
Okay. And do you plan to ever grow beyond that? I mean, you're a young man, so maybe you aren't thinking 30 years down the line. But do you have an ultimate goal for yourself as a businessman?
The ultimate goal is to be able to just, I mean, it's put it this way, Mike. In this business, which is really, really unique, is because we're helping other businesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
The gratification you get in putting up a sign on a business,
yep.
They call you afterwards, the sign's up, and they say, "Jonathan, we're opening up in a few weeks, I want you to be there." And you get that
Nice.
all the time. Just the response like that every time is a reward in itself. Now, why putting up more shops? Because I've also used other sign shops before. I've been frustrated of probably not getting that extra mile I was talking about a while ago. So if I can get up other shops and probably maybe hopefully selling or teaching other people to do the same, then that would be enough reward for me.
That's great, Jonathan. In closing, would you give us the website in order to go visit Signs and Banners and let people know what that's all about?
Or you can go on www.signsandbannersva.com. So that's signs with an S and banners, VA, short for Virginia.com. On there you can follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Facebook, and see all the stuff that we've made throughout the years. We've put them all on there. You can ask us questions, you can call us from there, you can pop us an email.
Great. So if anybody's interested in learning more about Signs and Banners or wants to have an email chat with Jonathan here, please do. I thank you very much for watching. I've enjoyed interviewing Jonathan Escueta, and I wish you the best. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mike.